All right, welcome back to Code with Kamira. So today we are going to look at integrating the API, and we are going to use Dio for network calls. So the request to the network calls can be done using Dio or HTTP package. So for our case, we are going to use Retrofit and Dio. We begin by installing or adding packages. So the first package we can add now is Retrofit, Flutter, pub add, Retrofit. Okay. Then we can add Dio, Flutter, pub add Dio. Then we can have JSON annotation. We are going to use this for annotating our classes as JSON objects. So that is Flutter pub add JSON annotation. Okay. Then we can have, what else do we need? We shall need the auto generator to automatically generate some of the files, and we can have that is a retrofit generator, but we say go to dev -dev. I think so. What are they telling us? I think it's the other way around. What a pub add -dev. Let me see the dev dependency. Yeah, we have retrofit generator. Okay. Then we shall need JSON serializable, Flutter pub add -dev, JSON serializable. Okay. So let's start then creating our classes. So we have the core folder here. So in the core, we can create a network directory. And in the network directory, can create retrofit directory and also the network response directory. Still remove retrofit. We say, let me call it response. Then inside this retrofit, we will need a files, but for now, let me create a file known as APIs. Okay. And here, I can say class APIs, and I put the APIs. So we are going to use some API, remote APIs. Let me keep this. So this is a full URL. Let me keep it there. So we are going to have our APIs in here, and this is the base. Let me leave it. So in other words, we shall have a products API that is static const products. It should give us the products equals. So depending on how you're going to end the base, let's end the base with com only. So this one should start with this. So that means the products API is that. We need to create the API client. So we need to create the API client, a new file, call it API client. So it's abstract class API client. Okay. We are going to mark this abstract class as a REST API. So at REST API. Okay. Now here we specify the base URL. Base URL. So the base URL is this remaining part. The base URL is this. So it has no trailing forward slash because in these APIs, we are starting with the forward slash. Okay, so now in this, we need to define factory constructor. So factory API client. Okay, and this should take in a Dio. We need a Dio that we'll use to make the call. We need to tell that to auto-generate the file and return it in a class called API client. Did we generate Dio? Okay, it's there. Now we need to specify where that auto-generated file is going to be. Because this is an abstract class, it means that it needs the implementation. And so this implementation is going to be auto-generated for us. And we want it to be in the same location as where the API client is. So we copy this path and then we say part this, but we say a .g for generated. So the generated file will have .g. Okay. Now here inside we can create our get method, and that can be okay. We say future. Okay, because we want to wait. Future dynamic why waste time? Future list of product. Okay. Fetch products is the method, and that is it. Now we need to give it which kind of method it is. It's a get. So at get. Then we give the path, and that path should be APIs dot products. Yes, meaning it gets this base URL and then it appends this API dot products, this one here. Okay, and it is a getter. So someone would say, how about get product details? Okay, we can define also it is a get, but to what we know, it's get product details, it is still the same path, products, then slash a 1 if that's the ID of the product, or a 2 depending on what the ID of the product is. So the path is the same. Now, what do? We tell it that we need at path path, at path, we are going to take a string ID. Path, string ID, we call it ID. Okay. Let me call it ID, the path ID, and it is a string ID just, and it's not a list, it returns a product, future product, but this is fetch product info. Okay, so we can add many, but for now let's go with this. So the implementation, as we earlier mentioned, the implementation of this class is going to be auto-generated, and we have a command that we issue to auto-generate. Now we need build runner. This is the command, but it won't work. We need build runner. Let's install Flutter pub add --dev build runner. I think it has. Now let's try to auto-generate the file. Hopefully it has generated, but we need to see because the error that was on this has gone away. So we need for it to appear here. It has come, but also it has some error of the pass error logger. So we need to include the error logger here. So it is import package retrofit error logger, that one. So let's try again to run. Which error is this? Okay, from JSON, sorry. Now our product, we did not implement from JSON into JSON. Okay, now let's put factory product from JSON. Okay, the JSON is map of type string, dynamic, and we call it JSON. So we expect it to return underscore product from JSON. JSON. Okay. Also, to JSON is a JSON string with dynamic data. We call this to JSON. And what do we expect? We expect it to return product to JSON this. Okay, let's build our runner to see if we get, okay, still there is an error. We need to tell that this is a JSON serializable. So at JSON serializable, okay. And also this product, we need to tell that where to put that auto-generated file for to JSON and from JSON. So that is part this, put a g.g. Okay, so it will generate that file accordingly. Yeah, so the errors have gone away from this, and we find that it has auto-generated this. So in some programming languages or in some, even in this Flutter, you find that someone will have a product model or class with to JSON and from JSON implemented inside it, making the class too big. But for us, we utilize the available files and techniques or approaches to ensure that the files are small and some are auto-generated. So for us, they have auto-generated this. Okay. Now that is our class. We were still on the client and we defined this. So what next? We need the service class. So the service class is going to give us the instance of the API class. So we create API service, API service, and we call this class API service. Okay. Now this API service, we'll have the Dio, and then it will have the API client. So what we are going to do here, so we are going to make the constructor internal or private to this class. So that means we can say final API service. Okay, we call it instance equals API service. So this is how we instantiate. But if we do like this, it means everywhere this can be done, but we want it to be internal. So that is dot this. That is also enough, but we can give a name internal. Okay. Now fine, let's do this. We define this internal. Okay, I get it. So we get this internal here. Okay. So we are saying our instance equals to this. Okay. So we define our internal here, but this internal we want it to do some work for us. That is instantiating the Dio and the API client. So we have let final Dio and let final API client okay. And now we need, because now this is an internal constructor, how do we access this class? We need to define a factory API service. Okay, and tell it to return to us the instance. So for you to access the service class, you need to call this factory. Okay, now what do we want this to do for us? We said Dio equals Dio, okay, and API client equals API client. Now we pass the Dio, and this is the Dio here, okay. So if we want to access the API client, we can access it now from this class by calling this class factory and dot this API client. Because when you call this factory, you are calling this instance, you are returning the instance, and you are returning now the internal constructor, which internal constructor is doing this work for you. So they won't be null. Okay. Now let's try to go in our data source. Yes, data source. We said local. We add this. So let's create remote. And we create product data source. Oh, product data source. But we can call it remote product data source. Okay. So we can say class remote product data source. Okay. Now, where is it going to get the data? Yes. So this remote product data source, we can say we need the data from final API client. We need to get it from there. Okay. API client. And we say API client is equal to API service, you remember, dot API client. Can be a let, but even why final, I may leave it. Can be a let because we are instantiating it after. Okay, so we have that access. Now we want to return a list, but it's a future because we have to wait. Future, give us a list of type product, get products, and this in the data source, this is going to return it's a future, so it's our sync. This is going to return await of remote. Where is it? Oh no, of API client dot fetch products. Okay. So it will give us this. This is remote. Oh, sorry. This should be here. Yes, remote. Now, what did we do here? Let me see, where did we call these products? We said return products. Where was it called? Okay. So in the repository implementation that gives us get products, let's change this to remote. Okay, since we are migrating everything to remote, then let's also have in the remote data source, let's have product detail. Future of product info, and it needs string PID. So it's going to return fetch product info. You pass PID. Okay, we have those. Now let's go to our repository implementation. This. We change this to remote product data source. Okay. And so this is going to be the get products on this. So here, display products info. Okay, product repository implementation is what I want. Oh, sorry, I'm forgetting. So here we have this here. So what we are going to do, get products, we go to this, we change something here. Okay, this is the call, future of type product, future of type product. And this is going to be async. No, the product is, so there is, I expected an int. Okay. And this is the use case, product implementation. Let me also first go back here in the list. Future of list. So we are going, you realize we are modifying the existing code. So should be aware of that, I think. Okay, we return the repository.get products, products, abstract class, get products. Okay, product repository, future. Even this product is a future. Okay. Now we have the logic where the use cases display product use case will be for this. Okay. Then the logic. Okay, here it means we do the right override. This is future. Even this is a future. Right? Now, this, we have this error method. The method return this isn't defined for the type remote data source. Okay, good. So what do we have inside the remote data source? We have get product info. You pass ID. Okay, but it expects the ID to be a string. We shall change that so that we pass the int and see. And this fetch or get products. So this expects in the data source, we expect an int. Okay. But this expects a string, the client. I can say int. Okay, I can pass it like this. Okay. So now do we have errors? We have errors in the logic to display products. Okay. So now this one is going to be product info, products. This one, we need a future. Future. Okay. And when you have a future, you have a sync. And so what do we say here? The data source is going to be remote product data source. Okay, remote. Okay, so we have this. We pass the data source. We return product use case. Okay, just double confirm. Add products. Okay, now even for this, we get this is remote. And this is remote. All right, do not forget to subscribe and also share your comments. And for any questions or clarification, I'm available for you. You share with your friends so that we get to learn Flutter together. So here we have product detail use case, product repository, dot call product ID. So what does this say? Replace the return type product use case with future. Return is an await. But this has to be an async. And this has to be a future. Okay. So we could do something Next, where is the error now? In your home. Yeah, so we have this. So we have a future that we can get from this. Okay, now we need to learn something. We can say final product future equals display products. Let me see if it's a real future string. By string, I'm just creating error. I want to see something. What are they saying? A value of type future list products cannot be very good. So we have what we want. Okay. So we remove this. And we remove this. Since we don't need it. Let's try. Okay. So we can choose to say a future builder. Future builder. Okay, this will help us. So future builder requires, forget about this error, this one, the list view, we shall replace, requires a future, and that is our product future. And then the builder, so we need to find out what should be in this builder. So this builder, okay, let me first hide this because we shall need the elements here. List view. We shall need this. Let me create some function to just keep it. Void, keep this here. Okay. So we have product future. Okay, yes, future build. We have this future builder. We check what the builder has. Future builder required future list. This is a future and list products initial data and then build context and async snapshot builder. Okay, builder has context and snapshot. Okay, and so let's see what we do here. It needs to return something. So what we are going to do, we check if the snapshot has data or is the status. If snapshot dot connection state equals snapshot connection state dot waiting, then you return circular progress indicator. No, if is equal to waiting, There is an error here. We wait. If this is the state, and you return this. Going to be the same. Then we check if the connection, this one is loading, so we show that indicator. We check if snapshot dot has not has error, we return a text with the error. That is snapshot dot error. Okay. Then what we do here, if snapshot, there's a situation whereby it's not loading, it has no error, but it has no data. So we say that has data, but we negate the statement, meaning there is no data. And so there we return a text with the message no data found. Else, we've handled all cases. We return, okay, wait to return. Final products equals snapshot dot data. So now we check our list that we had before. We return this list view. You return list view. And this we're assigned to replace with this. But rather we said data. Okay, so I can do this anyway. Meaning that if null, then it should be an empty list. Okay, so we remove this. And for this purpose, therefore, I don't find it any use for this class to be stateful. So I double click here. I need to convert it to stateless. Just like this. The same, let's go to product detail. We have product, display product. This gives a future. Let me say let me say string and just capture the error. Type future product cannot be assigned to this. Good. So we have the product already as a future. Okay. Now, how do we make it what we want? This is product future. So I can now say future builder. A future is the product future. Builder has context and snapshot and it expects this. So we keep this. We say we are repeating ourselves. So here is going to be if snapshot dot connection state equals connection state dot waiting. We need to return circular progress indicator. We can wrap it center. Then if snapshot dot has error, um, has error, we return our text with error, snapshot dot error. Then here, if snapshot dot has data but negation, we negate it, meaning it has no data, we can say return text no data found. Else, this is the final step. We can say final product equals snapshot dot data. Then we return this. Okay, maybe the argument can be now. If product equals now, return a text something wrong happened. We check this return. All right, with this, let's try to run and see. Okay, this is what we got. Now you saw the behavior wasn't that good on the home. For the loader, where do we have that? State waiting, loader, progress indicator. Let's center it, wrap in the center widget. Let's run again. Yeah. So now you see that this data now is coming from the API. And the intention of this was to integrate our data from the API. Though I don't seem to load the image. I don't seem to load the image. Let me test that API. Let me test that API and see. Let me try to find out why. Okay, it's image, not image URL, sorry. So this one should be image according to the API, should be image. And so here we treat it as image. However, let's first build the runner. Let's see anywhere with the error. The data source, we delete. We no longer need this local data source. We can delete it. Okay, so let's build. Great. Yeah, we have something nice. We have something very nice. Let's see the details. Yes, the details is here. So we have this details. Yes. All right. Today's general view was to connect to the external API and display the data. Yes, but then instead of using HTTP package, we have decided to use the Dio and in line with retrofit. So this summarizes it for today's tutorial. I know it has been long, but we had to ensure that we realize the goal. All right, do not forget to subscribe again if you've not yet subscribed, and also comment your questions so that they can be addressed. Let's make this an interactive discussion or lesson for all of us. Thank you for watching Code with Kamira. Bye.